Hi, welcome everyone. We're so happy to have you come and all the people watching the replay. We're very grateful. If you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. It helps us out, and share this with your friends because we have such a rich conversation that we've been involved in for this series of 5 seminars having to do with the great reveal. And today is the great reveal as the divine in you. And this is something that we have been really coming to grips with the change in the government and all the things that will be impacted, to go in and be really fortified as sovereign, wholehearted, peaceful people that want to bring peace in the world and carry that forward. And how are we going to do that? So we're looking at a really unique thing today, and I'm just going to touch on the theme for a second, and then I'm going to ask Sylvia to open us with the qigong practice, because the energy that we hold in our hearts and the energy that we feed to nourish ourselves is what's going to sustain us through all these changes that we are about to embark. And then I want to welcome Diana Kelly and Dan Morse, and they will be doing a deeper conversation regarding the possibility for how we can come back, return home, come back to wholeness. What kind of model, like an alchemical pyramid model, and really getting another look at the fall of Sophia, and why that is still playing out in our world now. And then Marty, Dr. Marty Casey, thank you for joining us all the way from, you're in Missouri?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri, and she lives 10 minutes from Ferguson, and she has been doing some tremendous work using trauma healing in the communities when Michael Brown was shot, and serving over 3,000 families and using art for healing. And you'll have to go back and watch the replay of the class that she did before this one, to understand the trauma healing process. And who would have known that trauma healing could be so fun? So, it was incredible. And then Diana and Dan will wrap us in a cocoon of love in the closing as we finish our engagement, because we'll be entering into a deeper conversation about how do we move forward with all these ideas and everything swirling around. So let me just do a quick screen share here. So I think you can see this, okay? No. Yeah. Okay. So this is an idea that is expressed in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And because Dan's going to be using the pyramid model, I wanted to just acknowledge that this ancient wisdom about the pyramid as a tool of ascension. So what is a tool of ascension? A tool of ascension is to become and move into the peace that we are, the love that we are, that aspect that is unified and wholehearted in ourself. And it's comes when we hit the still point at the top of the pyramid. And you see the base of the pyramid is tied to each of the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, because earth, air, fire, and water is what we need to live on earth. But when we come around to the fire corner in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that is the fire of the heart. And when we enter, we're going within, because it's an ascension. So we go within and raise up our vibration, our frequency, so we're above the battlefield and reach that point of stillness where we know I am peaceful, and be still and know that I am God. And then we walk forth as that embodied deep sense of peace. So this is the practice that was being offered 2,000 years ago by the master teacher, Mary Magdalene, who was able to achieve this goal. So so we'll be going into that, and what other kinds of modeling can we do? I'm gonna see if I can. Okay, so we have the vesica piscis is also something that has to do with the sacred geometry. So you have two circles, and the two circles can be polarized and opposite, but when they come together, what they do, especially when they overlap, is they make what is called the third thing. And this is the womb, the creation creatrix matrix. It's like where creation happens, where our creativity happens, where something is birthed anew. And it's called the third thing because often, because of its connection to the divine, what emerges we may not have expected, we may not have known. So we're always in the mystery of what wants to be created out of this. And then this is one of the most famous lines in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that we take inspiration from the manifestations. Now, inspiration that we can take is when we remember, we have a memory of a time when we were happy, when we were peaceful, when we were joyful, when we were all the aspects of God. And so we take that inspiration from the manifestation of our true nature, and we embody it in a direct experience of here and now. And so from there, we become activated with that peace and love. And as Marty showed us in the fabulous trauma healing exercises that she took through, we see the world through our senses. Well, this is a ritual that we had created, and Galia helped me do this ritual when we were at one of our feast days. But the first one is the rose, and we smelled the rose because they're activating the sense of smell. The beauty of the smell of the rose, it has to be a garden rose because a garden rose has scent. Commercial roses have all the scent has been DNA'd out of them. And so we smell the rose, and as we smell the rose, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It automatically opens the heart because the rose contains such a high frequency of vibration. And then the oils, the essential oils, we anointed ourselves, which is the recognition that we are divine, and the anointing, the touch, and the beauty of anointing, which is a lost art, is that it's a sacred touch. And there's no funny business. When people get touched by an anointing, they know that they are being loved and seen with eyes of love. And then we go on to the next part, which is to taste. And so we taste from the nectar and the sweetness of the honey and the fruits and the nuts that sustain us, all this healthy food, and we drink from the pomegranate juice of the goddess, and take that in. And then as we go around to the last part of the table, you'll see the back end of a silver mirror. And so what happens was we would look and see, after having this experience of activating all these senses. And I had with this one guy, and he was being kind of like, whoa, I don't know about this, you know. He went around and smelled the flowers, got anointed, and each one of them is being served. Each plate is being served by a priestess. And then when he looked in the mirror, he was shocked. He was like, he saw the most beautiful divine self. He was blown away. He says, I have always hated looking at myself in the mirror. And next time I saw him, he gave me a 3-page letter telling me of how profound this experience was for him, to see himself, see the divine in him by touching into the senses. So anyway, thank you so much for letting me share that. But I just wanted to weave the thread of the ancient wisdom that has been with us in the goddess rituals and whatnot, that into the modern day expression of the wisdom that is coming out in trauma healing work that Dr. Marty Casey's doing, and and Dan and Diana and all of us are doing. And so anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sylvia. Sylvia is an author of a fabulous book, which you will see placed up on the replay. I will show the. Can you say the title of your book? It's a very long.
Is Holy Spirit Rising: The Vital Return of Our Divine Mother for the Healing of Our Planet?
Yes, and
It's a long one. I don't blame you for not memorizing that.
Yeah, and we're going to need some major healing because
yes, the timing is perfect.
If you know, but today the orders were drafted for the release of the most toxic forever chemicals into our system on day one, and for the release of the pesticides that are known cancer producers of children. So this is
That's terrific.
Yeah, we need the return of the mother. We need the return. And this is why I've invited Dan and Diana to come and bring the Holy Sophia, the mother of the cosmos, the first emanation of light, the Shekinah, however that is expressed in your culture and your ways, to infuse that with us and give us a blessing on that. So, Sylvia, I'm going to turn it over to you. When you finish with the Qigong, then we'll go to you, Dan.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, yeah. And I guess you also then heard who they put in charge of the EPA. It's the guy that's always approved everything going into the water. So yeah, we have very much reason to worry, and we also are quite stressed. I don't know like if you're like me, but I woke up from sleep with my fists clenched still. Like after a whole night's of sleep, my fists were still clenched when I woke up. So from being so up, up and worrying on my way into sleep. So I thought a really good exercise for today would be something that kind of relieves stress and turns it into productive energy. It also elevates the heart. And I'm always doing things that elevate the heart, because right now that's where our injury and our concern, everything kind of lies. So this is just a breathing exercise, and breathing exercises are very powerful, but it's a Qigong breathing exercise that elevates chi and elevates the heart. And it's so simple, and you can do it for 3 minutes a day. It makes a huge difference for you. So this one is Lee Holden is very well known for his Qigong exercises. It's not the Shenyang Qigong that I'm used to, but it is, he has so many short Qigong exercises we can do when we're busy to transform our energy. And this is one of them, where you just breathe in and you kind of elevate yourself and open up your chest. So as you're breathing in, you just open your chest, open your heart to the sky, and then pause. It's in the pause where the transformation kind of happens. And then breathe out and put your hands together and hollow in your chest. So you kind of, your chest is pulled in. Pause again and breathe in again. And just keep doing this. It rebalances the nervous system. It actually stimulates things that will help rebalance your nervous system. And again, it reduces the stress and it elevates your heart energy. So breathe in, pause 2-3 seconds, breathe out, and just really, when you breathe out all of the air and really cave in your chest. Just keep doing this. Let's do this for maybe a minute. It's something meant to be done slow. Let's just do 3 more. Okay. When I'm done, I always thank the chi field or God or my helping spirits. I thank wherever I'm feeling gratitude. I also tend to do visualizations, like when I'm opening my heart, I just see the whole cosmos and I'm part of the whole cosmos. Sometimes when I'm exhaling, I do see myself releasing things that shouldn't be with me anymore. So those are the things that can help make it even more powerful.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
That was very helpful for me. I hope.
Yeah, if you do it for 3 minutes, you'd be surprised. And I usually do it standing because when you're sitting, you're slightly constricted in the chest area. So when you're standing, it's very powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I brought peace to my heart. So,
oh, wonderful.
And now I would love to turn it over to Diana Kelly, who's a high priestess of the Holy Sophia, her partner Dan Morse, who has been working all of his life on the Holy Sophia as well, and has a new book, which also has a long title. So Dan, I'll have you say the title of your book. It's The Divine Spark Within, but then the
So The Divine Spark Within, Excavating the Mysteries of Sophia and the Deep Christ.
I don't know whose is longer.
I know, right? But we'd like to actually really just drop in with the Divine Feminine.
Yeah. I would like to call in Sophia before we begin just talking about her, because she's very much present with us. Just acknowledging her. She's always asking for a seat at the table in our hearts. Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. You are welcome. You are always welcome. You are our mother. And those who are ready to receive you can hear your call and feel you. We need you now, especially. If ever there was a time for us orphans who have not learned about the mother and the religions necessarily, at least here in the West, of our birth, we are happy to be reunited. And I know I've shared this in our class, but In 2014, when Sophia came to me for the second time, she said to me, people will need the mother in ways that you cannot yet understand. And, that was 10 years ago. And things have really amped up. I knew that it was going to involve something with the Middle East, but there was also a part of me that knew that, or felt, I should say, felt that it was going to have to be closer to home than that. And I'm experiencing that, and I think many of us are, as this time. So I'm just offering that as a relatively new insight on that initial message for myself. I was like, oh, this is what she meant. So anyway, I'm just completely honored, and I just wanted to invite, this is an ancient story, and Dan has quite a handle on the ancient story part of it. So I want to invite you to share about Sophia and how this is played out over time.
Yeah, I think that we live in propitious times. I'm not sure if that's the right word. We live in times where the plight of the fall of Sophia and the jewel found within humanity is being intensely tested. And we want to make space for the qualities of the feminine. That is what has been suppressed from the beginning, as the creation story of Sophia suggests. And we may know this as, qualities of the feminine that may be associated with the right brain. And as the story goes, it was Sophia who was the emissary from the highest regions who came here to seed us, to bring this mortal form that was filled with light, as the story is told. And that story got interrupted, and forces of masculine control kind of took an upper hand. And for thousands of years, we've been really, or even for the history of humanity, we've been subjected to just a certain form of tyranny. And so I don't want, so I am a man here in this space, and I don't want to necessarily just sort of fly off into ideas and texts and that can tend to be more left brain. And Diana and I are really working to find the balance. And I think sometimes it's that small inner voice that sometimes can get overshadowed. And so I just really want to just make space for what is resonating in you in this moment.
It's been hard for me. I'm an empath, and I feel things really deeply. And I felt very agitated today. you know, it's not surprising to find out that the things that you mentioned, Christy, about the chemicals and things being released back into the earth or allow that to happen, that dumping to happen again. I go between, at this point, I think it's a week, right? A little over a week, being heartbroken and having my heart on fire, like the sacred heart. And I feel very, very activated to speak. When Sophia came to me, she told me rather that she was preparing me to be a voice for her. And I'm by no means, you know, claiming that as I'm the only one. I'm just, that was my process. And I can really feel her, that spirit, that fire moving through me. I have really felt a call to stay, to not, you know, to not put my head in the sand. But on the other hand, I can't live in that space all day of what's happening in terms of, you know, the negative things that we're hearing. So I've really dedicated myself to my practices, for the body, mind, and spirit, to really stay grounded and be able to, you know, I'll say build my aura, build my physical body, you know, so I make sure I exercise. I make sure I pray. I happen to say the rosary often or do mantras because that's my thing. Meditate, read sacred texts a little bit, not an enormous amount, but spend time every day to help really connect with, in my case, Sophia, predominantly. We're going to need tools. And a real strong connection. And not forget joy. So Marty, I would just, you know, I mean, I think I said this at the last class. In many ways, joy is the most resistant. You know, the way we can show our resistance is to still be able to have joy and to not be beaten down. On the positive side, I think this is bringing a lot of things to light that have been not so much on the surface and be willing to be talked about. Certainly, patriarchal, like I think we've been talking about in the divine feminine movement, the extremes of the patriarchy for a long time, but there's the subtle things. There's also the internalized patriarchy that I believe happens with women, where you have that internal misogyny. And I think it's created a lot with women when we get together, when we are, trying to do ceremonies. Sometimes I've seen that. So, I'm trying to look for the silver linings, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think these things have needed to be exposed, and I think they're bubbling up. In addition to, all the other things that I think are apparent. And I just hope it doesn't have to be as painful as it looks like it might be, for us as humanity to move through whatever this piece is, this birth canal that we're moving through to where we want to be. But really it's, birth is messy, and birth is, can be painful. And I think for me personally, I thought that, I feel like we chose as a collective, a slower, bumpier timeline, for that birth. And I think it would have been a lot more graceful and ease with Kamala. And it hasn't gone that way. And unless some miraculous thing occurs, this may be what we have. And we need to learn how to get through it and still have joy and still, do our purposes are not changed. I'm sure probably, I know I've looked at my purpose. This, 2 weeks ago, it is what it is today. It hasn't changed. It might be a little more challenging and it might be a little more intense, but my purpose here hasn't changed. And I'm sure that all of you can say that as well. So.
Yes. Mm. This is an ancient and a current story.
Mhm.
We have tyrants masquerading as saviors. And many people are just chasing after what they think is going to be, this new earth. And yet they may be blind to that the new earth may bring any new levels of exploitation and corporate power. So we feel that the creation story of Sophia offers a umbrella of meta understanding. It's a meta model that it's a monomyth, as Joseph Campbell would say. It's a primary core archetypal mythos that offers us an understanding of what it is that's happening. What is the story that we are in? And if we kind of bring it to sort of down to its essence, the story involves how we have within us a seed, a pearl, a quantum energetic that is the stuff of the divine original source light. And that this aspect of ourselves is something that the forces of tyranny, the forces of patriarchy, the forces of corporate control that can sometimes feel so ominous, don't want us to know about. Because in this, we have supreme power, we have great power, we have something that is some sort of a back door or some sort of a front door to not being at the mercy of these forces. So the divine spark within, I understand in two ways. The one aspect is that it represents our creative inspiration. It represents our joie de vivre. It's what Marty helped us, and Sylvia has helped us, and we've talked about this in this seminar here. And we often feel it as children. And this is our sort of our natural essence that can sometimes get sort of squelched by trauma. That's one aspect. But I think that points us to what the ancient texts talk about, which is that there is a divine spark, literally, a hidden spark of light, a pearl of consciousness. These are words that are used in the text that are referring to a mystery. There's a mystery. There's something that we don't know necessarily. It's latent generally. But the Christ Sophia cosmology and teaching and download and the planting of the teachings in first century, I believe, picked up in the next few centuries, are pointing to not only the reclamation of Sophia, but the reclamation of the spark of the great essence within us. And so we celebrate our creative expression, our joie de vivre, and we also hold a level of consciousness that's humble to the higher octave of that. That there's something also that's resonant, it's a coherent resonance of a higher frequency of our divine potential that is kind of a big piece of the story. And so, yeah, I'm working with attempting to help us navigate through the complexities of what has happened in this election with regards to parallel realities and different narratives that are found within different media ecosystems. And we do seem to see that there is a breakaway media, alt media, whole arena in which people can tend to get super excited on one hand and then kind of blinded to things that are going on. And so, so I'm just working with a pyramid alchemical process. And that is designed to allow for both voices from the more establishment ecosystem, the mainstream, sort of more liberal side of things, that voice to be heard along with the alt media voice, which is so complicated. And it's too much to go in here. I think, you know, Christy has invited me to bring this in, and I don't want to go in much longer at all, but that we need to understand where our blind spots are, and that the alchemical process is a distillation of the blind spots, the egoic aspects of ourselves that can distill down to allow for the higher essence of who we are, and who we are as a community to rise up to higher levels, where we can find a functional ground to be a good community where people are taken care of, and there's justice, and there's equality, and there's non-exploitation. And so we are here in the I mean, sometimes Diana and I talk about it as the battlefield. We're here on ground zero. We're here in 3D as agents of higher consciousness, and that we're being called to stay connected to higher consciousness. And we have a whole bridal chamber meditation to help us to stay connected to divine source that is outside of this of the realms of manipulation and exploitation, that can then touch in with who we are, with our own divine essence. Too much, I'm sorry, but thank you for this opportunity for us to be here today.
Yes.
Did you want to screen share any of your, like even the Sophia Fall, or because we have a
yeah.
little time, and it would be, I think, threading us back to at least understanding her fall and how that's playing out now would be helpful, if that would be something that you're okay with doing.
Okay, so this is in understanding the correlation between the images on the Gothic cathedrals to the Sophia story,
Mhm.
as I've outlined in my article, Sophia and the early Gothic cathedrals. The idea is that the rose window, which emerged in the 12th century, this from Chartres, is an expression of the source, light, emanation.
Mm.
In the Gnostic text, it would be called pronoia, thought, which is associated with the higher Sophia, the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
The Sophia then undergoes a fall from the higher realms, and I've suggested that these images are perhaps indicating how the divine feminine has been captured
Mhm.
by the archonic forces of the patriarchal left brain ego systems. It's a dramatic image that upon the Christ's rescue, the Christ who comes from the higher realms, here's the vesica piscis, as Christy has pointed us to, that this is on the front of Chartres, that it brings us, there's a crowning
Mhm.
that's part of the rescue as found in the Pistis Sophia. And with the crowning comes the return. And so these are archetypal images that can be points of reference for us. Here, she's fully crowned. She's connected to her divine source. And she's carrying the alchemical vessel that's holding the divine spark. Maybe we might suggest. This is the restored Sophia who is waiting. She's waiting for us, showing us the way, being an inspiration for the activation of this pineal spark something. There's a mystery here that can help us to move up into the higher regions, into the heavenly realms, as is indicated by the watery boundary.
Can you go back and show the crown falling down and what was wrapped around her eyes? Why was she blinded? Because I think that's an important.
These are known as synagoga in the Chartres, Notre Dame. This is Notre Dame. It's actually not found on Chartres, but it's found on a number of cathedrals. I believe that this may well be the first one where it was really prominent. And so it represents the fall or the shortcomings of the Jewish religion. So the synagogue.
Well, that's the story.
That's
it.
right. That's the cover story.
That's
I
the cover
believe.
story.
If the Templars were involved in seeding these themes into the early Gothic cathedrals, that they have created these veiled images. And this is a theory I've developed, and there's sort of new cross references of information that can help sort of hold it. It's very, very powerful and very exciting, because in 12th century they were really looking to see that here is an image of the Sophia who was bound by the figure Yel de Bayoth. It's very complicated cosmology, too complicated to go into today.
Right, but you can see her crown is in that lower right.
So yeah, so her crown has fallen.
Mhm.
Crown has fallen, replaced by the way in which egoic thought processes keep us dumbed down. And so the crowning is the taking off of that that technology or whatever that mental process, replacing it with a divine connection that can then bring us to this return.
Right. Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you. And we're basically still dealing with the fallout of the fall of the Holy Sophia, because even just, I've watched Dan over the last 10 years give lecture after lecture, working with this really daunting material that has been very complex and difficult to understand, and how each time you went in and each scholar you worked with and each trip you took, it was like another layer of being able to see what was going on and the clarity of mind. But even today, I mean, Dan has and Diana have put together a 4-course experience that people who want to really have a chance to understand the negativa, the positiva, and the dynamics as it relates to our ancient origins might want to sign up or get this course and go through it, because it really helps awaken reptilian brain things that are way back in our DNA that we've been carrying for lifetimes. And talk about what Dr. Marty says, the generation to generation trauma that has come from all of that. And then was there something else you would like to share, or are you complete with what you're offering, Diana and Dan?
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, unless, when we get into organic conversation, perhaps there'll be more.
Yeah. So we're going to have,
I think just to say that in my work that I've sort of come from a little bit more of the academic, esoteric theological system. Diana is working with the mystical and the gnosis, as we say.
yeah.
It's really the two need each other in a sense.
The left brain and the right brain, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
You're sitting on the left side and she's on the right side.
there we go.
When we went to Europe last year, to all these cathedrals, and I don't know how many cathedrals we went to, but a lot.
A bunch.
I would actually have experiences like, I had a crowning experience in Reims, which is where a lot of the kings and queens of France were coronated. But my crowning was different and very intense. And I had a really interesting experience receiving that crown, because I believe it is kind of a spiritual technology that can help us move through these times without being as affected and as pulled down, I'll say, or vibrationally pulled down. And pretty much a couple days, I'd say maybe 2 days after I had this experience, we landed in San Francisco, and I turned on my cell phone, after getting off the plane, and I was deluged with an enormous amount of text, and it was a personal situation, family situation, but I was that crowning, that spiritual technology was immediately shown to me, and I was tipped off when I was at Reims about receiving that experience, and
That it was
I
kind
was
of testing you.
kind of testing me in the sense that, basically, how was I going to react, and was I going to get caught in the extreme drama that was happening? So I have definitely felt that it's there is definitely something to this crown, and I did experience it literally, like I had a pressure around my head, like you would have a crown on, like the heaviness, and then the inside of my head, my crown, my actual crown of my head was burning, like I was getting a bad sunburn. So I was literally having a physical experience. And then the energy kind of came down and went to my heart. And then it took another 2 days to completely go in, and finally went into the ground at Avebury in England. And then we flew home after that. So it was, I had, and that was one experience that I had there, that was very powerful. So he's doing all the, these things, and then I'm, a lot of the investigation, and kind of like his version of, I guess, Dan Brown, right?
Well, and so this is something that, Diana can offer, is the ampulla. We're not going to do it today, but it's a crowning ritual.
Yeah, it's a
That's
ritual.
very powerful to help each of us to reclaim that.
Absolutely. Well,
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Diana and Dan, so much for bringing this wisdom and threading it. And now we're going to return it all the way to present modern time with Dr. Marty Casey, who also has a book with a little less of a long title, right? And which has a play on words: in her power, in her wisdom. And is there a tagline to it as well?
Well, it's just a women's guide to overcoming challenges and growing into our power, into your power. So,
right, exactly. So that will be a fun read for people to want to be really inspired by some amazing stories of the women that she's gathered to tell these stories. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Marty, to help us to integrate all of this with tools and technology that opens the heart and uplifts the spirit and carries us forward so that we may continue our journey. Thank you.
thank you. Precious memories, how they linger, how they ever flood my soul in the stillness of the midnight. Precious sacred scenes unfold. It's in the stillness is where we can find our inner peace. And I truly challenge and recommend each of us to take time out daily to go inside of yourself. Why am I telling you to go inside of yourself? Because we spend so much time outside in the world, and too much of the world is surrounding us and seeping into our souls. So it's very, very important, for the sake of our healing, that we take time to go inside of ourselves. I love what Sylvia led us in doing. And as I'm a person that visualizes. You all know that what I do at Ungun Institute, I always use some form of the art. So be it that it's music or it's poetry or it's drumming, whatever it may be, whatever speaks to your soul, use it. But when Sylvia was leading us in that breath work, I was visualizing what that appeared to be like for me. So as we took in that breath, right? We took the breath in, we had to take in the breath, and we opened up. This is us taking in the world. And then she said, hold it. Hold the heaviness of that world. Pause, hold. Now release. In the release, when you let that breath go, you should feel that heaviness that you were holding actually just come in and let go. It's gone. If we just practice that every day, take in the world, hold the world, release the world. I believe we would already be in a better place. So I want to thank you for that, Sylvia, because I'm going to use that technique to teach others how to do that. How to just really, because every day we were talking about teachers and police officers and judges and all these different people, the nurses and the doctors, they take in the world, they hold it, but they're not learning how to release it. That's the piece that we need for our healing. I want to share this poem before I then go into the part that I'm here to talk about. But I couldn't help but share those little things with you all before I got started because you inspired me in this way. But this is a piece, it's an unknown author. Allow yourself to rest and heal. Even the strongest trees need time to grow back after a storm. We've been through a storm, people. And we're some strong, strong trees. My goodness. The work that we have been commissioned to do, right? We're some strong trees. So even in our bend, I don't want you to break. Take the time. Take as much time as you need to heal. And how much time do you need to heal? You don't know the answer to that until you go inside yourself. And what I might need to heal may not be what Christy needs. And what Christy needs is not what Dan needs. Dan's definitely not what Diana needs. And Diana doesn't need what Sylvia needs. And Sylvia doesn't need what Galia needs. And Galia doesn't need what Jan needs, right? And all of you all watching. What do you need? Now, it's important for us to heal. I know Christy said I'm bringing it to modern day, but actually I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Because we were talking about Sophia in the fall of Sophia. And then when I think about the fall of Sophia, I can't help but think about what some of us felt like was the fall of Kamala Harris last week. Women still falling, no matter how many years in between. And so what that tells me is that there's some healing that we still need to do, because the threading of how is it that Sophia has trickled down some things that's still now inside of Kamala Harris is what I've coined a word called trauma tracing. And if we take the time and we trace that trauma backwards from what happened last Wednesday with Kamala back to Sophia, if we can then go back to heal Sophia from when the fall of her crown, we could probably pick that crown up and put it on Kamala. It's that trauma tracing we need. It's that healing, that thread of the healing that we need to do. So through trauma tracing, we have to do this individual work. See, it's more to just us going out and casting our votes. That's our civic duty. But I believe we also have another duty, women, that we must do, because we are all connected to one another. And only until I heal will every woman be healed. Only until you heal, Christy, every woman would be healed, and so on and so forth. So we have to do our community duty in healing ourselves so that we can heal all the women, going all the way back to Sophia, and making sure that we hold on to our crowns. That's so important. How do you do that? It's you knowing your history. How far can you thread it back to that woman that you're connected to? I take it all the way back to my great grandmother, who was born in my great grandmother that I am aware of was born in 1870. And I know of her mother. Now, I don't know the year that her mother was born, but I know that my great grandmother was born in 1870, 101 years before I was born in 1971. Now, this is where that trauma tracing is important, because what I'm looking for is the seed, what is the root cause of that trauma that begins to thread and then trickle down in my family, in these women. My great-great-grandmother died on the streets of pancreatic cancer. When my great-grandmother that I did come to know, and she didn't pass away until I was 33 and she was 93, who was born in 1910. Her mother died when she was only 8 years old. 2 years later, her father died. Talk about trauma, right? And so because of that trauma that my great-grandmother experienced, she became very numb to the expectation of individuals being there to care for her, to nourish her, to pour back into her. How many women do we see today that still suffer from those types of things? Fast forward, before my great-grandmother was 35, she lost 2 of her children. More loss. So the 2 children that she had left to care for, she couldn't even hug them and tell them that she loved them, because she was too fearful she was going to lose them. Now, it didn't mean that she was not a good mother, because that would not be true. She just cared for them in a different way so that she could mentally stay sound in the presence of her children. So she gave them everything. We sat down and we ate dinner at 5 o'clock every day. She did that with her children, and she carried that on down to us. So there were still things she was able to do, but there were some things that were lost along the way. So when I move it to where I am today, I had to restore some of those things that were lost. So the challenge in us today, women, is for us to restore some of those things that have been lost so that we can provide and have those things today. If Sophia lost her crown, if her crown had fallen back then, who's picked it up? So we can crown the women today and they can stand in their rightful place. Men are so accustomed to not seeing us with our crowns on because somebody didn't pick it back up. And that's what we need to do. So I'm going to ask each woman here today to grab your crown and place it on your head, just like Diana did, and feel the tightness coming around the brim of your head. Feel that. Feel the exposure of the dome of your head as the crown is covering you. Tilt it down so that we can see it tightly on the brim of your forehead. Feeling that. Now move your hands, as she said, down to your heart. Press your hands to your heart. And in the stillness, feel your heartbeat. Feel your heartbeat at your own pace. Hear the stillness. Go inside yourself and feel your heart beating. Move your hands down your body, pushing the blood of your body back out into the world so that it can connect to every woman. As we collectively call on healing to every woman in this world, we have collectively picked up Sophia's crown and placed it back on our heads so that we can walk in our rightful place in this world. There is no human life that is birthed and born into this world without a woman. And we today have picked up our crowns to heal and to be. And every day we will take the time out to hear, to see, to taste, to touch, and just be in the stillness. The stillness of our inner peace. We are healed. We are one. We are one man. Thank you.
Thank you. That was brilliant. So beautiful. And I'm going to ask everyone to join. You know, what I didn't say before we started is Jan does the Queen's Caravan. She goes around the country and restores the crowns on women's head. So I hope she can join us now. Can you join us, Dan?
Hi, Christy. Here I am. I'm Jan of the Queen's Caravan Spiritual Walkabout Tour. I love this talk about being queens, but it's not the old way of being queens. It's about holding dominion, about holding our light, and to be beacons of truth in communities coming up. So I did develop the Queen's Caravan Spiritual Walkabout Tour, and I go all over the United States into communities, into homes where women sit with their girlfriends and they remember how to speak up for themselves, for what is right, for what is coming in their community. And it's coming up, it's a no compromise zone. We're going to have to hold stability and a foundation for the divine feminine truth, beauty, love, and goodness. And what better way to do it than to go through a ritual, which rituals are time honored for helping people really own it. So I was so thrilled to be here, part of this group tonight. I actually drifted off. I was so relaxed. So when you said, Jan, here I am telling you about the Queen's Caravan Spiritual Walkabout Tour and about how wonderful it is that we're all getting the same ideas, that we really have a right and need to take up the space and need to don the roles of queen bees to bring sweetness into our communities, starting with our own partners and our own family, and then to take platforms and to take global stages as we release fear from our voice as never before. So thanks for asking me to put my 2 cents in here. Jan Jorgensen, Queen's Caravan Spiritual Walkabout Tour. Love to everyone and blessings, and heaven help us. We're going to need it, but heaven is here to help us.
Now we're into organic conversations. So whatever reflections people have, please share.
Well, I was deeply moved, Dr. Casey, by everything you said and the way you say it. Yeah. I don't know what to say except thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful to you as well as I am to all of us, because what I just did is not what I came in here and planned to do, but I was inspired by all who spoke before me. And I hope that that is a reminder and a testament of that when we connect and really hear each other from the heart, this is what we can create in real time. So thank you for saying that. And so I take no honor in what was just done, but I will say and just the spirit of the healing balm that's right here in this room. This is what we can do. This is the work that we can do. And we can send this out everywhere. Congress, anywhere where the healing needs to happen, where there are women, we can send it out. And I want to just say this because I think it was mentioned, was it about, I think Dan mentioned pronoia, the word pronoia. Pronoia is actually the opposite of paranoia. Paranoia is what carries fear. But when we move in a pronoia state of mind, it elevates us to the highest thought of good. And I pray that each of us, before we leave this Zoom room, not just carry joy, as I said last week, but carry the state of mind of pronoia.
Oh, no, yeah.
Any reflections, Dan and Diana?
Mm.
Mm.
Well, that was wonderful because I know, Christy, you had asked if I would do the energy transmission, and I kind of didn't feel quite capable of doing that today because my energy felt a little lower than I'm comfortable with when I do something like that. So I appreciate that organic creation of a crowning. And yeah, it's a very powerful ritual because there is something about ritual, and we've lost a lot of our rituals. And I think it really would be especially helpful for women right now, because I think that I know myself, I had that experience last summer, but honestly, this last week I've felt my crown's gotten kind of knocked around. And it's helpful. I'm like kind of straightening it out, shining it up. Yeah, so it was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvia, do you
Yeah.
have any reflections? Or I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's yeah, the idea of us, in a sense, improvising
Mhm.
in the room here
Mhm.
and bouncing off each other and being creative in the energetic, I think is really, really good. I think we certainly need that in this day and age. It's not about some prescription or some got to do it this way. It's like, wow, how we got to roll with this.
Mhm.
And yeah, pronoia.
Yeah.
Yeah, pronoia, just absolutely higher thought,
Mhm.
Wisdom, insight, and may the energetic of our higher consciousness
Mhm.
seep into the collective in a way that can be restorative.
Mhm. Mhm. I saw a young girl not that long ago that had a pronoia
That's right.
tattooed on her wrist. Constant reminder.
The reason that I was fully aware of the word, if you will, is because in the work that I do with helping individuals disarm from the trauma that creates violence, I know that a lot of the violence is being fueled by being paranoid, right? And that causes that fear. And that fear is what makes us sometimes take on a sense, take on a false sense, if you will, of what's the, I guess a false sense of being protection. And that's where, wow, everyone is just like walking around with guns and looking like we're in the wild, wild west, right? Because that is almost makes one feels like, oh yeah, anything goes down, happen, I got this, you know? And that, but to me, that's a very paranoid individual that feels like they need that false sense of protection. And so I really started thinking, well, what's the opposite of being paranoid? And then I discovered the word pronoia, and I said, wow, that state of mind, that's the state of mind I gotta get individuals to rise to that state of mind. And and so and it's a paranoid person just feels like there's nothing good ever is going to happen in the world. They're paranoid, fearful about everything. But a pronoia person feels like there's nothing but good in the world. They operate from that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt until you show me something different, because I love all people and I lead with love, right? That's a pronoia state of mind. And that's what I live in. We cannot be peace workers and not have a pronoia state of mind. But that's something that we have not taught peace workers. And I will say this one last thing. If we were talking about war, we know what to do when it comes down to war. We know what we're wearing, the fatigues. We know the songs we're singing. We're going to be marching left, right, right. We know all of that. But if I say, come on, let's go to peace, we're like, okay, what's next? What do we do? What does that mean? And so I want to at least help peace workers to understand. At first, it starts with your state of mind. I need you to have a pronoia state of mind.
Mhm.
Then we'll figure out the song and what we're gonna wear. It might be some bling, I don't know. But but can we at least get on one accord with how we're gonna show up?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm curious if you knew that the source origin of that word was the Holy Sophia.
Wow.
Well, it's Greek, of course,
It's a Greek word. Yeah, it is Greek.
but it's specifically in the Gnostic texts linked with the well, we might call it the high Holy Sophia, the emanation, the great light that is burst from source. And I mean, Christ in those texts talks specifically about pronoia, linking that word with that essence that then Sophia brings down to us. And so the divine spark is a piece of the pronoia. I mean, you know.
That's the other thing. When you said divine spark, again, I'm such a visual person. I looked over Sylvia's shoulder and look at that light. And I was like, if we could just picture that light inside of us.
Mhm.
And seeing that today, seeing that light. And when we know that we need to tap into our divine spark, we should see that visual, that light inside of us, right? And don't dim that light for anybody or anything. You keep that light shining over your shoulder just like she has it right now.
Visuals help a lot.
I've been admiring that light. I want it right here.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
Is right there.
And see there, yeah, that's when the breathing and the seeing helps, you know. It grounds you
Yeah.
all over again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I loved what both was presented today by Diana and Dan and Marty. You're bringing those ideas together. We created and demonstrated tonight a third thing. So you didn't know you were going to lead us in a crowning exercise, but that's what emerged. And see, that's what excites me, is because when we tap into these higher consciousness ideals and we take them on for ourselves, and it's like, Diana, you were just telling me the other day that out of all of this, you're you're upping your ante in terms of how much meditation you're doing, and you're getting yourself prayed up. And I started meditating this morning too, just like we have to get ourselves ready, and we have to put our crowns back. And this is her whole work. She calls her thing the Queen's Caravan, and she goes across the country and she helps women to get their crowns put back on. And all of her artwork is with crowns on it.
But it goes back, Christy, to what I say often. Trauma's transferable, and so is healing. Over this 5-week series that you have created and put together, you truly have created a healing space. And so because of that, we've gotten to know each other. We've been weaving these things together. We're hearing each other. We are connecting. Only because of what they presented first did that lead me to connect to this healing source, this healing space, to allow me to just in the natural do that. And that's really scientifically, I would say that's how we show up in humanity. It's that human connection that we have, and that energy, and how we influence each other. That's why you got to be careful who you are sharing spaces with, and who you're talking to, who you're allowing to pour into your ears, and who you're speaking to, and what you're seeing, and what you're taking in and digesting. All of that matters. These are the sources. So what you've created here, can we applaud you right now, Christy? Because if it was not, seriously, for you inviting us to be here together, we didn't know one another.
Well, you have to talk to my High Holy Sophia, because I just heard, put this here, add this here, talk about this, and I just obeyed orders. Literally, I didn't know that we were going to come to this. I loved what comes out of the organic. I mean, John Summer on the unity.earth is always talking about the organic, what emerges in the organic. And I think the solution to peace on earth is in this organic matter, that as we bring in the higher realms, and we put our crowns back, we become sovereign women. There's a wonderful TED talk that is by a Palestinian woman, and she talks about women need to be at the peace tables. We need a seat at the table. And Diana opened with, Sophia wants a seat at the table. And so, but we have to put our crowns on if we're going to be able to sit at the table, because we have to be in a sovereign state of wholeness. We have to be, like you were saying, in the pronoia state of mind, this higher consciousness state of mind. So I am so grateful to all of you for allowing me to pull on all of you and throw you together and mix it all up, and support this work of letting the third thing emerge, letting the womb get created, so that which needs to come through the portal of the divine feminine womb creative matrix. I mean, you showed that in your trauma healing things. We had to get creative.
You have to
tapped into the creative thing. And so that creativity, we can create peace on earth. We can do that. And we will, as more and more of us open our hearts and our minds and use these tools. So thank you all. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for joining with us. And Dan and Diana, did you want to do a little closing meditation with us, or as we end this now?
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
It's been such a blessing for us all to be here. And thank you, each and every one of us, for the amazing energy that has been brought into the space.
Mhm.
We open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our souls to the great mystery. Jesus said, this is the first thought, pronoia. She became the womb of everything, for she who is prior to them all. For it is she who is prior to them all. She is the spring of the living water. May we feel this energy, the fountain of holy light, of holy love. And may we carry it out into our lives, touching those who can feel it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. I just want to much gratitude to each of us and to Sophia. We've said your name many times here. You definitely have a seat at our table, in our hearts, in our world. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for overlighting us as we speak your name here. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Mm.
Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us, and those watching the replay. We love you. Let us know in the comments how this landed with you. Please join us next time by signing up on my website, thegospelofmarymagdalene.info, and you'll receive notifications about upcoming ceremonies and deeper conversations that we hope to have in the future. So blessed be. And you'll see Dan and Diana, you want to say your website is in the light of sophia.com?
Yeah, in light of
In
Sophia.
light of Sophia.com.
Okay. And Dr. Marty, yours is unguninstitute.org?
Actually, unguninstitute.com.
.com. Okay. And then Sylvia, yours conscious.
Yes, it's consciousmediamovement.org.
All right, great. So thank you all so much. Let's twinkle each other. Thank you.
Thank you again, Christy. Thank you, all of you. It was great.
Yes,
Bye.
and thank you for joining us, Galia.
Yes,
and
it's
Dan.
wonderful to be
Good job.
connected.
Take care. Blessings.
Night.
Night.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child alone.